Information Governance Day 2026. We have 4 guests, 5 identical questions, real answers on time to value, defensibility, integrations, and AI governance. So, again, welcome to the InfoGov Hot Seat, the show where information governance flips into governed intelligence and data becomes your AI advantage. So I'm Jim Merrifield, and for this Global Information Governance Day special, I am joined by my co-host for today, Lee Zidwick. Lee, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Jim. I'm looking forward to the conversation and hearing more from our partners on what teams can actually implement this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, looking forward to having the conversation with you and the others. And this is Global Information Governance Day episode, and it's in partnership with ARMA International and ILTA, the International Legal Technology Association. So thank you to both those organizations for supporting practical information governance across legal and regulated organizations. So you're probably wondering, if you're listening here live, how today works. So first, we'll hear from ARMA and ILTA. Each will have time to share what they're seeing and what events are coming up this year. Then we'll bring on one guest at a time from backstage. And after each segment, that guest will head backstage and we'll bring up the next guest to put on the hot seat. So each guest answers the same 5 questions, so you can compare the approaches.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that throughout this episode, we will be talking about governed intelligence, which is a term that I actually love. But when we talk about that, we're talking about governance controls and evidence that make data safe and useful for modern AI and focused on outcomes and not theory. So, very appropriate for the world we are in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for that term. I'm not sure if it's a new term, but it's a it's IG flipped, governed intelligence. So of course our guests today are Aaron Rangel from iManage, Nick Berg from Latera with FileTrail, Tony Ford from Fit Future in Technology, and Chris Giles from Legal RM with iComply. So now, without further ado, let's start with ARMA International. We're going to bring Jennifer Millette and Erica Poff from backstage. So here's Jennifer. Hey,
Hello,
Jennifer.
everyone.
Hi,
And then
Jennifer.
here's Erica.
Hi.
Hi, Erica.
All right. Erica, Jennifer, let's set the tone for Global
Excited.
Information Governance Day 2026. So
Woohoo.
we're giving ARMA 7 minutes, right? So 7 minutes for opening remarks and a look at what's coming up this year. So, of course, we're joined, as mentioned, by Jennifer Millette, VP of Event Strategy and Partnerships, and Erica Poff, VP of Education. Welcome, Jennifer and Erica, to the hot seat.
Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah, we're super excited about this.
Yeah, it's so great to have both of you on the show. So, Jennifer will cover events and partnerships. Erica will cover education. So, Erica, in about a couple minutes, why does Global Information Governance Day matter right now for legal and regulated organizations?
Thank you. I think that in general, when you look at the field of practical IG, we're at a really pivotal moment in history. I mean, when you just think of how rapidly technology has been evolving, even in just the last couple of years, the rapid evolution of communications tools, it's just created unprecedented volumes and complexity of information. I actually read a really interesting stat recently that on a daily basis, the world generates about 2.5 billion gigabytes of new data every single day between emails, text, social media, the Internet of Things, and even cooler, along with that stat that I read, is about 90% of all data that exists today has been generated in just the last 2 years. So it's not just a lot of people say like things feel like they're moving faster. No, they are legitimately moving faster. We're legitimately creating more and more information, and so when we look at something like this turning point, it demands a renewed focus on IG. We need to ensure that organizations can manage, they can protect and leverage their information effectively. So I'll just say that ARMA has been around for about 70 years. We just had our anniversary last year, and in that time, we've seen the management of information evolve in many different ways. Records information management is still a core of this field, but now more broadly IG. And in that 70 years, it's IG and its related disciplines have proven their relevance at every major technological leap. So what we're seeing right now in terms of those rapid evolutions I just discussed, they always bring new challenges and opportunities, and IG has always been the foundation for helping organizations to adapt, ensure compliance and security, and bring strategic business value. And so when we talk specifically about legal and regulated organizations, and the importance of IG, it isn't just a matter of efficiency. It's about maintaining control. It's about ensuring compliance and mitigating risks in this really increasingly complex environment. And so I think, in ARMA as the home for IG, we appreciate and take a global IG as an opportunity to reflect on this critical role that IG plays in our world. And to try to get the word out that IG is so much more than just a compliance necessity. It is a strategic enabler. And at the end of the day, the organizations that prioritize IG will be the ones best positioned to succeed tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for starting us off. Jennifer, in one sentence, well, you could have a couple sentences. What are you hearing from the community that makes this year feel different?
I might give you one long run-on sentence. So I would say we used to all know that governance was positioned more as a compliance support, but this year really does feel a little different. It feels like IG and records leaders are becoming more strategic assets because of what their programs provide. We have the operational truth that makes governed intelligence impossible. So the work that has to be done and is being done it's a great sign that our profession is influencing decisions and driving the work that's being done in these new programs. So I think it's a really exciting time, and I haven't seen this much positivity, I feel like, in a long time. So I think it's exciting.
Yeah, it is an exciting time to be in our space. So here's another question for you, Jennifer. What is one behavior change that you want organizations to commit to this year? What would be one?
Goodness. So I'm first of all going to say, on behalf of ARMA, thank you for giving us the opportunity to preach to the people. But we would love for organizations to stop treating IG as a department and start treating it as a shared leadership discipline. That means that all departments, records, legal, IT, privacy, security, data teams all need to sit at the same table, before initiatives launch and not after problems arise. Governance really shouldn't be considered the cleanup crew. It should be a part of the design. If organizations can commit to that shift, everything will flow smoother. So that's our one change we'd really like to see this year.
And if I may just jump in for a couple of seconds, I would be remiss in my role of education if I didn't take this opportunity to point out that, it can be considered or can be viewed as a pretty big undertaking. But at the end of the day, creating that strategic, fully embedded organizational governance approach, we do offer tools at ARMA to help support that and to understand that. And the main one being the Information Governance Implementation Model, which is a tool that helps to bring that common understanding and unified implementation that bridges policy and technology across multiple areas. So if you are looking to actually engage in that better behavior that Jennifer just mentioned, we have your back.
Yeah, I love how the two of you just teed that up. It was almost like an alley-oop and you just dunked it, That was cool. I like it.
It's kind of like we work together,
Well, Eric, it sounds like too that, I'm curious to know a simple first step that a team can take this quarter. And it sounds like a good first step could be to avail themselves to all the resources that you guys have available.
Absolutely. And we have everything from, diagnostic tools. So we have this great thing called the IG Maturity Index. We do an annual survey, but it looks at 8 different factors of the IGIM and helps you to understand where your organization's IG program is in terms of like maturity and where there's opportunities to improve. There is, lots of education training, which I think, Jim's going to ask me about a little bit later. But yeah, we have a lot of things there to support the growth of IG.
Yeah, lots. Yeah, we're going to get into those programs in a couple of minutes. So Jennifer, before we get into some of those programs, let's talk about events, right? There's events and programs that of course are coming up this year. What events should we put on our calendars?
Yeah, definitely. Near and dear to my heart, where I spend almost all of my professional life planning these events. First of all, to give you a little background into our events and how we plan them, we know that everyone's time, their budget, their resources are, tight, and it's hard to decide between your professional life and your personal life where you're going to spend your time. So ARMA really took a deep dive into our events and strategically looked at how we plan them and who they're for and how you should decide to attend them. So we structured each event intentionally with the outcome in mind, so you can maximize your investment and how you're spending your time and your company's resources. So we know that you're inundated, probably every day with resources, webinars, white papers, on-demand content. And while we offer those, every day, and we want you to interact and participate in those things too, to fill the gaps and keep, the content and the learning going every day. We hope that you'll, invest in some in-person learning this year and through our events. Because we honestly feel that the investment in an in-person event and that education, can't be met any other way. It's the undivided attention. It's the time away from your inbox. It's the time and the space to think strategically instead of reactively. So that being said, on our calendar this year, we have, and we hope you'll make time on your calendar as well, we've got upcoming next week, we've got the Public Sector Information, or InfoGov Summit for those in the government community. That's for everyone in the local, state, or federal government space. And it's really, forward-looking governance, AI conversation, or excuse me, that one's, and then after that, we've got in April, the Info Next conference, and that is for those forward-looking in AI conversations, those looking to shape the future of governance. And then, of course, we have our flagship event in October. So each one is designed, like I said, to deliver a focused outcome, to, allow you to meet peers in your same space and to have practical strategies and, that you can implement immediately. So we, hope you look at an in-person event as an investment in your future and your company's future.
Yeah, lots of events coming up. That's so exciting. I know we'll see each other next week at the Federal Summit. So looking forward to that. So thanks for sharing that. So Erica, let's talk about learning paths in education. I know you got a lot in the hopper. So, let's talk a little bit about that. What should we focus on this year?
Well, I think so. As ARMA has always been the home for, records managers, IG professionals, we recognize that, and as we've kind of been, proselytizing, that the only way for IG to be truly effective is if everyone is on board. Like Jennifer had said, behaviorally, it's not just its own department, it's not the cleanup crew, it's fully engaged. So one of the approaches ARMA is taking this year is with this everybody in mind, is we're actually creating some specialized educational training for different groups of people. So for the non-IG professionals, basically, I like to think of it, if you have a job and you handle information in any way, do you write emails? Do you have to save documents? Do you read things? I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but if you engage with information, you have a role to play in your organization's IG program, and thus you need to be knowledgeable about it. So one of the things we've done in partnership with Robinson and Cole, just a little shameless plug
shout
there.
out.
We've developed a brand new training program called Fundamentals of IG, which is precisely for those who are not necessarily operating in IG or records management specific roles, but need to be savvy and understanding of an IG framework so that they can be more effective in how they create and manage and organize and protect information, understanding its different dynamics. And so when they go into workplaces, they are part of that more integrated effort. And it's not so much once again, it's not just a matter of, well, these are the things I have to follow. because the policy says so, but I understand why this is valuable and important, and it brings value to my role. But for those who are already in IG roles, which is our bread and butter, we're looking at, different types of offerings for how you can level up. So, for example, if you want to level up your organization's IG program, I kind of mentioned what Leah mentioned earlier. We do have this diagnostic tool in the form of the IG Maturity Index. It is aligned to the IGIM, that tool I mentioned earlier. And you can actually kind of assess your organization's maturity according to those 8 domains of the IGIM using like a 5-scale model. And we actually do a survey every year, and we put out the reports, lots of industry feedback, kind of creates like an annual benchmark of maturity every single year. So if you are interested in that, we are working on the 2025 report, but your previous 6 years worth of reports are available. And then as an individual, if you're looking at like, hey, I've, maybe you never had any formal training in IG, but you become something of your IG master, or maybe you did have that formal training, but you're not quite sure what the industry standards, best practices are. We are actually in the process of developing a brand new Mastery of IG course. This will replace our Essentials of IG course. And it is essentially, I'm going to call it, it's going to be the definitive training for IG professionals. We are currently hosting a 12-part webinar series, just acknowledging that, maybe a, self-guided multi-hour online course isn't the best learning, methodology for everyone. We can appreciate that. So we're also delivering it in a live webinar format. We actually have one of those webinars today on legal and regulatory considerations in IG. So it's depending upon where you are in your career, where you are just kind of in your competencies, or if it's more organizationally focused, or even if you're not IG, but you need to understand it, we are trying to create something for everyone.
That's great. So lots of events, lots of programs, lots of education. So if you want to sign up for one of these events or education offerings, where can we find the ARMA calendar and register?
So just go to arma.org and you can find everything from there, linked from our events page or our education page. You can find almost everything you need. And of course, Erica and I are always available via email, and you can find us on the staff page. Our emails linked there as well. So we're happy to answer any question, give you any sort of resource we can provide.
Thanks, Jennifer and Erica. This has been great. Thank you both for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
been great. Thank you. Thanks for the partnership.
Us.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll send you back. We'll enjoy the rest of your day. We'll send you backstage, and we'll bring our other partner, ILTA, to the floor. So thanks again to you both. Love that feature. All right, here we go. Hey, Gaynor, how are you?
Hi, Gaynor.
It's so good to
Great
see you.
Great to see you. Right, great to see you. So, next up is ILTA. Of course, we asked ILTA to share. We want you to share what events you have on your calendar, so that we can put that on our calendar and see you there. So we're joined by Gaynor Stenson, right, membership coordinator at ILTA. So welcome, Gaynor, to the hot seat.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Happy to see our fellow Iltons. I know many are listening, so I'm just happy to have a chance to speak with you guys and people that are working in the hot seat, if you will, in the industry. So I have a question for Lee. What do you see changing the fastest in information governance as part of your work on our content teams and the IG roundtable?
So you're turning this around to put me back in the hot seat.
You're the expert, honey.
I think the fastest changing thing in information governance is the pace at which AI is reshaping everything. As a practitioner, I think we all have a responsibility to understand the AI itself, and we have to translate that into concrete IG implications. And from there, you have to embed that into thinking that that organizations are adopting AI at a rapid speed. So the challenge isn't so much anymore a lack of awareness. I think over the years we've been kind of pushing the IG train forward for a while. but it's that the governance models that we've built were built for a much slower world. So IG is being pulled in real time for advisory mode, and we're guiding decisions as technology is evaluated and employed and not after the fact.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So Lee, we're just gonna continue this theme of putting you on the hot seat, right?
Oh
So
boy.
you probably didn't know that was gonna happen,
No,
but
no,
I
this
mean,
is a twist.
you're the host. So so what's one practical step organizations can take in the next 90 days that improves defensibility and AI readiness at the same time?
That's a good question because I think that the universe of because everything is so fast moving and so complex, it's easy to kind of get analysis paralysis and not really know where to start. And so I think finding that place to just start to make some inroads can help pave the way for the other things that you ultimately do and to enforce learning along the way. So I would suggest creating, a lightweight but enforceable IG or AI intake question and vetting framework, not just a full policy, really a standard set of questions that you would ask anytime there is an application that's going to be onboarded. Ideally, IG would be part of that approval process, but if not, definitely be involved in making sure that those questions are asked and answered. This also addresses some of the defensibility issues by creating documented intent and risk awareness, and it improves AI readiness by forcing consistent decision making at speed. So, we're asking generally the same questions of all of these solutions to get to where we have a level of comfort on how or if we want to use them. So, let you have visibility, traceability, and repeatability. So, Jim,
That
that's probably more than what you were looking for, but that's my practical first step. Get organized
sounds
at
easy.
the beginning.
Yeah, it's easy, you know. So perfect.
So,
Uh,
Gaynor, what ILTA events, programs, or conferences are coming up this year that the audience should be put on the calendar? You guys do so many great events.
Well, our next event that would probably be most relevant and of interest to this group is our Evolve conference being held in Denver. It's April 30th through May 2nd, and we have a track dedicated to security and a track dedicated to AI. Um, and then we also have our ILTACon conference in August. This year is in Nashville from August 24th to the 27th. We'll have a lot of sessions dedicated to IG security and much more. Speaker applications did open yesterday. So if any of our listeners are interested in speaking and sharing their expertise, sharing what their organizations or firms are doing, go to the ILTA website, the iltacon.org website, and look for the link for the speaker applications. So lots of good sessions there. For our broader audience, we have some really cool new events coming, and it's ILTA Leadership Days. So they're in late March, and these events are more designed to inspire, develop, and connect leaders across the legal tech community. So they're going to be taking place in New York, Chicago, and Atlanta, and we'll have a virtual component. So it's easy to participate from anywhere. We will have our Next Gen Legal Innovators Day, which is for our young professionals. We will also have our Catalyst event that is Women Who Lead, and then our leadership days. So those are just general leadership sessions for everyone pertaining to law firms. So take a look at the website and get more information on those. Happy to have you reach out to me as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. You got a lot going on. A lot of events.
Lots of good
you
stuff.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty to do on both the ARMA and the ILTA side. There's plenty for us IG professionals to do in 2026, wouldn't you say?
Love it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So again, Gaynor, And Lee, thanks so much for Lee can't go, but thank you, Gaynor, for you could stay on too, Gaynor. But thank you so much for for the partnership of this podcast and ILTA for all you do for our profession. It's truly appreciated, and we thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, so happy to be
Thank
here.
you,
Thank
Gaynor.
you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, enjoy the rest of your day.
Y'all too.
All right. Now we're gonna get into the fun stuff now.
Here we
Now
go.
we're gonna these four solution providers. So we're gonna bring Aaron in from iManage. All right, here's Aaron.
Hi,
Aaron,
hi,
hi.
Jim. Hi, Lee. Really happy
Hey.
to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, it's great to have you and iManage represented on this first live podcast here. So we have lots of questions to ask you. But before we get into those things, please share like your title, what you've been doing at iManage, and maybe a little personal background on how you ended up working in this space of IG.
Sure, Jim and Lee. I'm Director of Security and Governance Products here at iManage. I'm a long-time iManage employee and a lot of experience with the DMS. That's where I got my start. And as we had challenges around managing, governing the information, that was a very natural extension for me. I've also done a lot of work in analytics and AI, and what's happening is so exciting because there's so much opportunity for us to come in and deliver value, especially as Lee was talking about the AI front, making things, accelerating things, and providing a great amount of value.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are doing some great things. So I'm sure you encounter IG problems, right? In talking with clients. So what would you say? What IG problem are you hearing most often right now?
Absolutely. I would say that it's just managing the explosion of information, across the DMS, across multiple applications, and having a single view of all that information. So that's what we're focused on in 2026, governing it, disposing this information, giving you visibility into where it is. Those are the key priorities. Do you want me to go ahead and tell you what we're doing in 2026?
Well, Aaron, I wanted to ask you a question though, because you think you've got some really good insights around, for these things. Who do you find usually owns them internally, and who else would you say needs to be at the table?
I mean, most of our customers have a strong information governance practice that's very, very closely related and works hand in glove with the CIO's office, that works with the Associate General Counsel. Records management is a strong function as well. So, it today, I feel, is a much more important role than what we've seen in the past.
Got it. Yeah, I love that question, Lee. I'm glad you asked
Yeah,
it.
well, I think we need a lot more people at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about 2026, Aaron. What are the top 3 IG capabilities you're prioritizing in 2026? What specific customer problems are driving those investments?
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. We're razor focused in 2026 on 3 major areas. I would say scaling electronic governance, modernizing disposition, and strengthening the DMS as a single source of truth. When I'm talking about scaling electronic governance, the explosion of electronic content continues to be the biggest pressure facing our customers. They're managing far more many documents, explosion in email, workspaces, information, and applications outside DMS. So for us, the key priorities underway are really moving customers to a modern, scalable foundation, ensuring customers are operating on infrastructure that can support large volumes of electronic content disposition, multiple large dispositions at the same time without impacting performance, transitioning away from legacy environments ahead of their retirement in 2026. We've completed successful migrations to our Cloud iManage endpoint. We will accelerate this effort in the next 2 quarters. The goal is simple. Customers should be able to confidently manage tens of millions of electronic records, hundreds of millions, without worrying about limits. I would say the second priority is really modernizing disposition. Disposition must address the following realities: the sheer volume of scale, performance, security. It requires elevated access. It requires the right safeguards and simplicity. Legacy models where you're duplicating metadata, you're duplicating ACL, security ACLs are really no longer sustainable. So we've redesigned disposition to work where content lives, integrated with the platform, as well as giving you visibility into content in other applications. Adoption has been strong, including AmLaw 100 firms, UK Magic Circle firms for our new disposition, and we'll expand it to physical records in early 2027. Obviously, you can still continue using our existing physical products. And customers can transition their electronic records at no additional cost or continue using the current solution for physical during the transition. I do want to spend a little time on focusing on strengthening the DMS as a single source of truth. The governance extends beyond the DMS, so users are copying content in Teams and SharePoint and other tools. This creates a nightmare, and it's not just the DMS, it's the AI tools as well, and I'll talk more about that. And our focus is enabling collaboration without losing control. And we're doing that in several ways. Seamless co-authoring, so you don't have to push content or copy content into Teams or SharePoint to co-author both internally and externally. That's key. Making sure that you can now invite an external party without an iManage account, be it a contractor, be it co-counsel, a client, to co-author and share documents without that content leaving the DMS, so no multiple copies, as well as launching a modern email management experience that allows us to scan inboxes and file email intelligently. This will come in Q3 2026. We will not handle often mailboxes of departing users in Q3 2026. That's a much requested feature that will come later. And I don't want to not talk about physical records management. That's very important to us. That remains a mature and proven capability. Customers are regularly disposing physical assets, reducing storage costs. We've heard the feedback about reporting performance. We're actively working on that as we speak, and we'll share updates and patches coming in the next few weeks. And the physical record support will be incorporated into our modern dispositional platform beginning early 2027. I do want to mention matter mobility briefly as well. It continues to surface as an important area in customer conversations, and we believe our investments in workflow, task management, and AI give us a strong foundation. We will continue to share updates on what we're doing in this area in 2026. I would like to go and summarize quickly. We're building governance that scales with the explosion in electronic growth, modernizing disposition for today's high-risk environment, fast-paced environment, and ensuring the DMS remains a single source of truth. And I'll talk about additional applications with the questions that you have coming up for me as well.
Perfect. Thanks for giving us an overview
Great.
of the entire
Aaron,
platform.
question. Yeah.
There is certainly a
Yeah,
whole
lots
lot
of
of stuff
things
going
in
on
motion for
multiple
you guys.
fronts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all back to that feeling, that rapid pace of everything. So for law firms and regulated organizations, what would you say a successful 90 days looks like with your platform? Thinking things like, reduction in rot or policy application, defensible disposal, things of that nature.
That's a great question, Lee. And I think time to value really matters in information governance. And the best way to describe it is taking you through a couple of case studies. So let's break this down into two parts, electronic and physical. I'll start off by talking about iManage Disposition Manager. This is our new product offering, cloud-based, always available, no database downtime, modern cloud, single endpoint. And it's really designed to get teams started and operational quickly. So I would say in the first 90 days, customers have the ability to go live in production within the first month. They can complete their configuration, that's setting up retention rules, and they can begin running defensible disposition workflows, I would say within the month, not quarters. Again, during that 90 days, you can apply retention policies, initiate approval workflows, schedules are applied, automated notifications go out to approvers, and once all those approvals are in place, we will start destroying content. You can absolutely, as you talked about, Lee, reduce rot in a controlled and measurable way in that 90-day interval. Many organizations have significant backlogs. I'm not saying you'll get rid of your entire backlog in 90 days, but disposition runs in controlled volumes. We want to make sure that business operations aren't disrupted by people running massive dispositions. Teams have full visibility into progress. Okay. So you can see how the task is progressing, how many documents have been disposed of, and there's absolutely no need for you to restart tasks or anything like that as these long-running jobs take place. So I do want to talk about physical records as well, and I want to talk about the Hanson Bridget case study, which we're about to publish. At Hanson Bridget, the records team was managing over 30,000 boxes of physical records dating back to 1965 using an outdated tool. I believe they were using Elite's records management, where they could only destroy about 10 files at a time. Updates took days. Storage costs were continuing to grow. After implementing Records Manager, each member of their 5-person team now disposes anywhere between 500 to 600 files per month. This productivity improvement was seen in the first, I would say, 90 days. And they've reduced costs by approximately $2,000 per month. The total that they've shared with us to date is about $100,000 in savings. So again, just to reiterate, in the first 90 days, customers can definitely move from planning disposition to executing it safely, visibly, with measurable impact as well.
Yeah, I love you sharing that. Hey, real life case studies are where it's
Yeah.
at. So, and appreciate you telling us firsthand, right? It's not even published yet, and you told us on this live podcast.
Yeah,
So now
so
everybody, you're gonna get, yeah, you're gonna get a bunch of emails now, Aaron. Everybody's gonna want you to send that case study out. So
absolutely, it will go out, Jim. And I do want for the iManage customers, please reach out because there's a lot of information we're covering here. So don't hesitate to hit me up with questions, and we'll be more than happy to give you more information as well.
Great.
yeah, for sure.
So Aaron, I have another question for you. So, you mentioned, I manage the DMS being the single source of truth. And we're also in this dynamic now where attorneys just aren't working in one place. We
Yes.
have to meet them where they are. So which means our content is in a variety of places. So what repositories and collaboration tools do you cover best today, such as obviously the DMS, email, but things like 365, Teams, Share Drives, Chat, and many others? And where do you still think you have some gaps? Where are you putting your focus?
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, as you'd expect, our strongest and deepest integration is with the DMS. That's where we provide end-to-end governance, analytics, policy application, large space, large scale disposition, visibility, auditability, and all of that good stuff. When it comes to other repositories, here's how we approach it today, I would say with file shares, we support governance of file shares, and it's almost, we'll give you visibility in your file plan, we'll give you visibility in the eligibility reports that you have content in file shares. Today, we don't have the greatest amount of telemetry on how much information is in the file share, what's the size, how many files. That will get added in upcoming updates. So when it comes to Microsoft 365 environments and SharePoint and Teams, as you talked about, today we allow organizations to govern references or links to content stored in these systems. Again, this will show up in your file plan reports, your eligibility reports. What we've done so far is we've invested heavily, Lee, in making it easy for the DMS to serve as the, let's call it the single source of truth here. So you're working in Teams and you go to a tab and you can access your entire iManage repository within Teams, and you can path links to iManage content. Okay, now again, if you're working with someone who's outside your organization with collaboration links, and this will come in Q2, the EAP is open for collaboration links. I can just send you or Jim a link. You don't have an iManage account. Well, you do have a manage accounts, I'm sorry, in this case, but you get what I mean. I send you a link to a document to, let's say, a client, let's say a contractor, and I can co-author with you. Okay, with the right security controls, you don't have to have an iManage account. And that's incredibly powerful, and that controls content proliferation of other applications that you have to govern. And there are many other examples of that. Now, again, going back to your question, email is big. In Q3 2026, we're introducing our enhanced mailbox management capabilities. It'll scan your entire inbox. It'll give you smart filing options. Okay, so you can choose, you'll get an entire report with a lot of emails it's identified, showing you what workspaces it's going to, allowing you to file or not file to that location, change location. So we've got AI that learns, and we're very excited about that. I think that's where we stand. Lee, I hope I've answered that. So bottom line is giving you visibility into this information across multiple applications is a top priority, and giving you additional telemetry about this information and handling disposition of that is important as well, and will come in upcoming updates.
That's great, Aaron. Yeah, I always say I am looking for that single pane of glass where, you can have oversight over all the data that you need to govern, and do it without a whole lot of different tools and steps and overhead. So sounds like you guys have a lot going on in that regard.
Yes, and Lee, I do want to mention the next generation co-authoring. Okay, that's really huge. Building that co-authoring natively into the iManage platform and giving you a top-notch experience via our partnership with Microsoft really prevents you from having to copy content into Teams and SharePoint.
Yeah, that's great. I tell you, you struck my, you got my attention when you talked about email and filing and AI. So I'm definitely gonna have to reach out to you on a separately on a demo on that, because I think we've been dealing with email management issues. I think everybody deals with them, right? We get, probably while we're talking on this podcast, we're getting hundreds of emails that we're gonna have to look at, right? So that's a cool feature in utilizing AI as a technology. So Aaron, we've talked about a lot here. I know we're definitely gonna have to do a part 2 here. But in one sentence, what should our listeners do in the next 30 days to improve IG outcomes? Tell me.
Yeah,
Tell us.
absolutely. I would say in the next 30 days, identify one low risk content category and execute a defensible disposition pilot, if not in production, to really build momentum, reduce redundant and obsolete trivial information, and demonstrate measurable impact.
Yeah, I love it. Short and sweet, to the point.
Make it happen,
For sure.
Right. Yeah. Great. Well, Aaron, you shared a lot of great information with us today. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining Jim and I today.
Yep, absolutely. I know we didn't cover AI. There was so much I wanted to share about AI, but I do respect the fact that we may be running out of time here.
Yeah, no, listen, we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Yeah,
That's easy. Then we'll leave listeners on the hook a little bit there, and
And we
we'll
got plenty for a
definitely,
part 2.
yeah,
okay,
no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because there were a
absolutely.
lot of other questions
I,
Oh yeah,
I
we
could
could
have
stay on
asked
here for an hour.
you
For
too.
sure.
So
that's
yeah.
completely understood, Lee and Jim. And we'd be more than happy to participate and share our plans. And
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you and iManage for supporting today's live podcast here.
yeah,
All right. All right. Take
thank you.
care.
Thank you, Lee.
Take
Thank
care,
you,
Aaron.
Jim. Yeah.
You got it. All right. So I sent Aaron backstage. Okay, I lost my co-host for a minute, but we're going to improvise. That's the way technology goes, right? So our next guest is going to be Nick Burge from Latera. So we'll bring Nick from backstage. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, Jim, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Perfect.
Audio sounds good.
Cool.
I'm sure Lee will be joining us again in a moment. But again, this is thanks for joining us today, Nick Berg from Latera, of course, focusing on FileTrail, right? That platform. And so before we get into like all the questions and things, why don't you share your title and what you actually do at Latera?
Yeah, Nick Burge, I'm Senior Product Manager here at Latera, both focused in File Trail and Power Desktop applications here, and I've been here since the acquisition, since we've joined back in 2024.
Awesome. Well, great
Yeah,
to have you on the hot seat, Lee. Great to have you
yeah,
back.
happy to be here.
yeah, thanks.
Hey, Lee.
I'm not quite sure what happened there. So
No, I don't
good to be
know. That's
back.
technology. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Nick just joined us. So
I know.
Nick, listen. Yeah, in one sentence, Nick, tell us, what do most organizations get wrong about defensible disposal?
Yeah, I think the first thing that really comes to my mind is that they really kind of think that it's all or nothing, that you have to kind of do it all at one time, or otherwise you can't be compliant, that there isn't really any room for starting small. There's tons of precedents that say you can, be act in good faith and moving towards compliance. And I find that trying to target kind of easy wins and start building the framework for, actioning on that is the thing that I think is where most people get it wrong. And I think it's really critical to kind of focus on where you can actually make the biggest impact and look at the low hanging fruit and demonstrate some of those movements towards compliance for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the cost, Nick, of getting it wrong? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, it's buy-in and adoption. You only have like so many chances, I think, to socialize initiatives, like especially when you're talking about disposition, where the sensitivity and the risk are really high. You can have all the bells and whistles of a really strong platform. You can have a really detailed and documented records retention schedule, but as far as like getting the stakeholders and winning that sentiment is something that you only have so many attempts at. And I think that having large shotgun approaches which can backfire, or having poorly executed plans where you're not socializing some of these initiatives, it can really kind of lead to credibility erosion, and so it makes kind of restarting those initiatives just even that much harder. So
Yeah. So Nick, what are the top 3 IG capabilities you're prioritizing in 2026, and what specific customer problems are driving those investments? What are you hearing customers want, and where are we focusing?
yeah, I think disposition and retention has always been a focus that we've really kind of done a really well job in excelling in. And I think that where we're seeing a lot of growth and need is in the matter mobility and kind of transfers and movements between firm to firm. Really, it's not so much one attorney or two attorneys. It's large scale content moving between organizations. And I think that some of the workflow that comes with that is something that's really something that we're speaking to or working to speak to. I think having just some of the initial tools in place to execute on that is one thing, but having a means to really make it intuitive and performative is the next kind of half of it. And that's where we're wanting to spend, some of our top focus in this year. And so we'll have some a lot to announce there as we start to kind of roll out those incremental improvements. I think also just fundamentally being under the Latera umbrella expands us to be able to have more access into some of the other collaborative platforms that the organization offers, and it makes sense to be able to expand some of our governance capabilities there. So that's another area that we're really trying to kind of lean into and focus. We have lots of governance focused utilities, so having a cohesive offering is something that we're really excited about trying to provide. And so I think this year we're going to have a lot to be able to kind of speak to and show for that. And then, kind of the last one, I never like to kind of leave some of the physical stuff behind because I think it's still something that's so important and close to what we do. We've really seen a huge spike in users being able to use our tools for physical records disposition, and that's actually growing more than we've ever really kind of seen it. And so one of the things we like to really start working on is provide insights into whole box disposition, really get keen insight and like this entire box is ready to go. And believe it or not, like the work it takes to be able to surface that isn't actually as easy as it really seems. And some of the approaches that firms kind of go to get to that varies. And so we want to be able to respond to that. And that's something that we're also focusing on as well. Not to mention, lastly, Microsoft 365. I think integration with a lot of the different components of that is definitely where we're headed. Kind of speaking into what Lee was talking about, meeting attorneys where they work, and that's something that we're really that echoes loudly, and we're focusing on too.
Yeah, you can't leave that physical stuff behind.
No,
Most
it's still there.
organizations
It's
still
still
have it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's still being generated too. It's not stopping either. So yeah.
No, for sure. So here's a question, Nick. For a typical legal or regulatory regulated enterprise, what is what does a successful 90 days, first 90 days look like in your platform?
Yeah, I think before, we were really focused on, giving visibility and having like some fundamental records management traditional workflows. But now that we've been able to kind of like really build out some of our disposition and retention capabilities, the first 90 days are we're actually going and having customers executing destructions at large scale now. We're actually doing production destruction in pilot phases now too. So really the first 90 days we're having customers actually carrying forward disposition on in ways that we really haven't seen before, so both physically and electronically.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's good to hear, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a question on like auditing, right? Everybody, you have to produce. Everybody's either in an audit or they got to produce an audit report and things
Yeah.
like that. How can a customer like what evidence can you produce? Such as log reports, approvals, exceptions, those things in your platform.
Yeah, we have a really powerful audit utility that kind of tracks every event in the system. I think one of the areas that we really try to also surface that is not just how we, activity is done against one record to another, but really how are we applying retention and how are we weighing and scaling that from item to item. We have a really complex matrix of how we apply those retention rules. And so not only that, we can surface how they're applied in the system, but also our user documentation kind of also parallels and surfaces that too, so that you can be confident in not only are you applying retention, whether it be practice group driven, but from an outside counsel guideline, you have factors that are playing in from your client rules or your matter based rules. They may even have media type rules within a certain matter or a certain client where a certain type of document has to be retained within a specific amount of time. So we want to be able to surface that, and if you have overriding retention policies, we'll show how those events changed and why they changed, and what it was before, what it is now, who made the change, if it was automated or not, and then make that something that's like downloadable and surfaceable. So yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Especially, most organizations, right? You gotta maintain like an ISO certification or SOC 2, and those logs are really important. So for the security folks, so great that you have those features. Let's talk about. I know you mentioned 365, but which repositories and collaboration tools do you cover best today, like such as DMS, email, 365, Teams, file shares, all those things? What do you
Yeah,
cover?
for sure, for sure. Right now, obviously, Net Documents and I manage the various flavors of their offering for on-prem or cloud. We integrate with file shares as well, so we can provide regex strings to scrape client matter data out of the pathing, so that we can execute disposition and some searchability there too. And then from a physical standpoint, we can also collaborate and integrate with Iron Mountain and access offsite storage, so that you can have request fulfillment and workflow from that as well. And then this last year we published all of our APIs in REST format, which expanded some of our integration endpoints into holds management tools and capabilities, and even office services applications if you wanted to do more like ticketing based like fulfillment and requests as well. So it really allows just some of the keys to be put into the hands of the firms to determine how they want to best kind of leverage some of those endpoints and integrate as well. So yeah.
Yeah,
I
Nick's
do
a
see.
curiosity question.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Where do you still see gaps around chat and collaboration and perspective? And what do teams do in the meantime? Well, I think a lot of us are trying to figure a lot of this out.
Yeah, I think the gaps really vary wildly from organization to organization. I think that historically kind of depended on systematic management of some of those environments being like kind of well provisioned and well structured. I think that, you fire up teams for the first time and people kind of just go wild, and, you might have a collaborative chat with just, one or two colleagues versus, the content being managed in, say, a structured team. And so I think that that still is going to be pervasive and still exists. I think that's the gaps I think are going to be best answered by AI. Can it help augment some of that information and surface some of that knowledge of where information truly lies. Yeah, and so
You're
in the
giving me a nice
meantime,
segue into the next question. Go ahead.
oh yeah. Well, I think in what we do in the meantime, I think that's difficult. I think that we're still trying to figure that out. I think some of the solutions and some of these AI utilities that we're hoping to even adopt and integrate are going to help maybe inform how we can best manage that going forward. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah.
Oh no, it's an important topic, which is why I want to
Yeah.
ask you another question. So, what specific controls do you provide to enable trusted AI use? Include data minimization, permissioning, provenance, sensitivity, labeling, retention, AI inputs and outputs, and all that other fun stuff. Are you doing anything to prevent AI from amplifying like bad IG, such as over retention or misclassification? What are you looking at there?
Yeah, this is an actual active development. It's something that we're highly focused on this year and looking to be able to do some workshops and demonstrations later on. But what we focused on is, building that foundation of human-driven controls, which kind of help build that strong foundation in how we use the existing applications. But we are going to be focusing on some incorporating AI into these tools, which is really going to be like augmenting and not replacing those human driven mechanisms. We want to make sure that we're building it on top of like governance first architecture, not the other way around. And so we want to be able to view more of, if there is PII or PHI, maybe there's confidence thresholds that users can interact with and help steer and guide and even train the models over the content, so that we're working with the content and not necessarily having it work for us. But again, this is something that's very much in flight that we're looking at. We don't have anything in place now, but it's something that we hope to be able to surface pretty soon.
Nice. We appreciate that honesty too, Nick. That goes a long way. So, talking about prompts, I think every firm company is, trying to figure out, like, do we retain prompts or outputs, right? What's your kind of take? I mean, you don't even have to talk specific to like,
No, it's
what's
I'm
your
glad this is the only question where I had to go out and do research, Jim. So to be able to give an answer, but it's actually, it's actually, there's a lot to it because you've got, geopolitical considerations, both from, European, US, and US it's state to state. And that's not even considering what the different sector specific requirements are either on this, let alone what the tools that exist even allow for that type of like interaction. I think a lot of these tools were built without even the consideration of governance in the first place of what prompts, how do you keep prompts, like what models are you using and what we're bringing in. So I want to answer that with just yes, but but I do think that for now, I mean, there's PII risk in some of those, that too. You're asking personal questions. You might think it's work related, but it's still coming from a person. So there's just considerations that I think are going to have to be addressed, and it's going to take some time to fully grasp and get our hands around that. Kind of speaking to what Jennifer was referring to and some of the IG resources, I think that those are going to be really good resources, in the coming year as more information gets, published and education gets proliferated across the discipline. And so I think it's going to be, very much a collaborative effort for everybody to kind of learn and share, which makes sense. And what, there's probably going to be some learning lessons along the way too. I think that there's just some things we're not even anticipating that could potentially come into play from a governance standpoint.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think we're all kind of figuring out together. I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of, the practitioners or the law firms, the business partner, and even consultants. I think we're all kind of working together on this stuff, trying to influence
Yeah.
products and figure it out.
If there's
Yeah.
one area where I don't want to introduce a lot of guesswork right now, it's here, right? And so there's
Yeah.
already enough of that going on with the black box of this. So yeah.
Well, I think from a practical standpoint too, real quick, I mean, as teams are deciding whether to retain props or outputs, you want to, aside from the technology, you want to understand why, what's the
Mhm.
purpose. So,
Yeah.
is it driven by, we're seeing some client requests to retain prompts in some instances. So that's a business case. You may
Right.
have other, efficiency gains or whatever. And then, it comes down to that classic IG thing of the risk versus the benefit in doing that evaluation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Definitely.
I agree. I mean, the big question is going to be, when a lateral, at least on the law firm side, a lateral partner leaves or comes in, are they going to take their prompts with them? Or is it the firms, right? Well, we don't have to answer that here live, but definitely a question that I think firms are asking, right? Trying to, who owns the prompt? Is it the firm?
For
Is it
sure.
the person? Is it the client?
Right.
So
Right. It's it's interesting because we've gotten some tools where we've gotten to play with like Researcher and Copilot and some of these like more like tools that I've never really had a chance to even see before, where they're searching against the internet, against your email, against your OneDrive, against other people's content that might actually have other team members' content that might be shared in a SharePoint site, and you're getting insights both internally and externally in a way that we really haven't seen before, which I think is just going to be really speaking to also the idea of meeting people where they work. And I think that that's becoming more and more everywhere. The one source of truth is becoming is I hate to say it, but it's everywhere at this point.
yeah, it is. It is. So Nick, we've talked about a lot here, but so here's the final question for you. In one sentence, what should listeners do in the next 30 days to improve IG outcomes?
Yeah, I'm really pragmatic. I like to be practical, and I think and it speaks to a little bit about what Aaron is referring to is pick a business unit, start small. I think piloting is really important, whatever the initiative is. I love to be able to pilot, retention and work through that. Who are we communicating to? Who are the stakeholders? What are some of the gotchas that we might haven't considered? What do we want our emails to look like when we send out notifications? What do we want the language to feel like? So I think like starting some of that foundational work, if you haven't undergone that yet, is what my recommendation would be for sure.
Wise advice.
Hmm. Well, Nick, thanks for joining us today. You shared a lot
sure.
of great information. So
No,
appreciate
thank you
you
guys.
being on with
Definitely.
us.
Likewise, it was fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks to you and Latera. So listen, enjoy it. I'm going to send you backstage. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. All right, two to go.
Halfway.
So how do you feel so far about the conversation, Lee? What do you think?
Good,
Before we bring
good.
Tony on. Yeah?
Yeah. Shared a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I need to go back and listen to it again just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, we got quite a few people listening live, holding strong for a full hour, during their lunch hour. So again, for you listeners, thanks for holding strong, listening to this live broadcast. Wasn't sure how many we're gonna stay on. There's over 300. So that's the number I can see. I can't see if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, but thanks for sticking on. And you're gonna want to stick on for this next guest. So we're gonna let Tony Ford in. So let's welcome Tony. Here he comes.
Hey, Tony.
Here he is.
How are you?
We're doing well. We're glad you're here with us now. We feel a little better, at this halfway point now that Tony Ford's in the house.
Oh, this sounds like trouble.
So it's great to have you, Tony. Tony Ford from FIT Future in Tech. Welcome again to the hot seat. Before we get to some questions that of course we want to ask you, focused on the solution, would you mind sharing your title, what FIT focuses on, what you've been doing, maybe a personal background experience? We know you're a sneakerhead, so you can't use that. So use something else.
I will start there. I'm a retired sneakerhead because my dear friend, Mr. Merrifield here, did a sneaker challenge at ILTA, which I lost, and then had the nerve to show up at Arma with Arma socks and matching Jordans. I'm out the game. You can win. It's a young man's sport. I'm out. I'm too old for this one.
There's always next year, Tony.
No. You cleaned my clock this year, so I'm going to just actually go into the sunset. But I'm one of the co-founders of FIT, myself, along with Jim Higdon, and then my CEO Jules and I have been together about 23 years now through this business and other businesses together. So we've been doing this quite a while. We started a long time ago. We had a managed services company, and we wrote FIT for our clients because we were dealing with a lot of mid-sized firms. So it was much more of it was back in the day. It was for paper and a lot of crowd filing, and we just built it into something that's become quite a beast. So we separated the companies a few years ago, and we've been going at it pretty good. So today my title is CRO. Tomorrow it might be who knows what it could be. It's whatever we need me to do is what I do. So we're a little bit different than some of our friends who've already had a chance to speak, and then obviously our friend Chris after us. But we kind of meet where information governance and data governance combine, because the spectrum has changed. It really has moved into, especially in law firms, you're all managing 4 different firms just based on vintage. You still have the very structured, old litigators who just need a pen and a pad and 12 in a box, and they don't care about anything else, all the way down to the lawyers and the partners under 40 who just grew up in a different world with AI and search capabilities that they don't understand why you need a structure. You don't even need to name it, just save it, and just blob storage is all they work from. So trying to manage and build systems for 4 different types of users in the same firm gets a little tricky. So that's what we focus on.
Love it. Love the high level focus. So in one sentence, Tony, what surprise? What surprises most governance teams in 2026? What do you think? What will surprise them?
I think the actual amount of data that's not a DM. So if we go back to the original way we used to structure thing, and Aaron said it best, that DMS was a source of truth, and it is, and that's where we should respond. And back in the day, and not to make myself that old, but when we used to actually declare records and then put it in the RMS and all those different blood fund tools, it's actually inverted now. So now you have all these different endpoints where people are working whatever they want to work in. And then I forgot who said it. It was probably both guys said it before me, but the Teams thing and the SharePoint thing, and everyone's just sharing documents. And then if you leave it there and you leave it in OneDrive, you've now created, a complete collaboration nightmare, and then trying to figure out when to save it into DM. And what you have to do now is you have to monitor those areas and try and we call them endpoints because it's easier, because we have to deal with, we're at like 15 endpoints right now, just going through both the Google Suite, the Microsoft Suite, and then the e-discovery tools as well. So, and then pulling that back to DM as the authoritative source. And the reason you want to do that, and we'll get a little bit more into it on the AI side, but in order to teach your AI tools, you have to clean up your data set. And then in order to get a good data set, really, before you can get to the learning tools doing their thing, you have to come up with a matching scenario where you're looking at a couple of different sources. So time and billing, Active Directory, DM, and then you start to be able to teach the tools how to actually get more than just client matter, but to actually get down into the nitty gritty, understanding who worked on what, timing when, and then you can really build a model that your AI tools can handle. If not, you're just going to have unfair data everywhere.
Yeah, that's what to think about, Tony. But I agree. I'm curious to know, though, do you see any kind of initial or first sign that this surprise is already happening?
Yeah, I'm starting to see. So we do a lot of classification projects for firms, and we're starting to see lots of firms with 400 and 500 terabytes of OneDrive data, plus SharePoint data, plus Box data, and then they still have a DM cloud scenario or a DM on-prem, and then another archive behind it. And you're sitting there saying, and that's not even for the bad actors, because we all know we all have clients who will still use their Outlook as a way to hide more files. And even if it's in the delete folder, they're still doing it based on the vintage. So trying to combine all of that and come up with something that's holistic is really, really a challenge. So that's the surprise. I think when people see, and cloud storage is so inexpensive, so you don't think about it, oh, well, I have 50 terabytes in OneDrive. And then you look at it and you actually go out there and classify it, and you say, 48 of that is actually client driven. I really need that in DM. Or if no one's touched it in 10 years, why is it still sitting there? So that's the surprise that catches a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about, here's a question. What are the top 3 IG capabilities you're prioritizing in 2026? So what customer problems are driving those investments in those 3 capabilities?
So you know what? I would normally just say rot and disposing of that type of data. Managing unmanageable data, dark data, is probably our largest priority. And something that's popped up recently is what was being discussed earlier, and that's having the attorneys work where they work. So what we've been seeing a lot of requests for, and we're doing something for a top 10 firm right now. They like to do the review in relativity. So the attorneys never leave relativity, and we give them all of the things out of fit. So they keep working and their approval process, and it has nothing to do with rel. It just has to do with that's where the attorneys want to work. So if the attorneys want to work in SharePoint, we deliver whatever they need to look at in SharePoint. If they want to work in Everlog, well, whatever it is that they do as part of their habit, what we're trying to do, and most of all, if they want to work in DM, giving them the ability to stay in DM. It's a little harder with DM because there's rules, but some of the e-discovery tools are really easy. They're built for that, and they don't care about the source and what they're looking at. And really what we're talking about is reviewing metadata for transfer, metadata for destruction. We're not actually talking about document review. That would be something that they would do, but that's really become a very high priority in a lot of firms that just make the day in the life of the attorney a little bit easier and don't teach them any new programs. So we just start the background part, and that's what we've really been focusing on. And I think, Aaron started it off. Physical files are not going away. We are still getting requests for label designers and all kinds of fun things. And like everyone else, we integrate with all the big box houses. And the next phase for all of us is retention rules, and because everyone has file keepers now, everyone has terms, so just having those become more prevalent in the way you handle your disposition workflow because that really is, we're seeing some real movement around that. A lot of firms are going to practice group rules set by the firm, not necessarily outside counsel anymore, because some of them just don't make sense for the business. And then just so, you map them, you see them, and then, a GC has the right to overrule it based on the firm need and the partnership and what they want to do. So we've been kind of floating around those three areas the most, and there's a lot of investment for us right there this year. And being AI ready, that's a big focus.
Yeah, out of those real quick, Tony, out of the priorities you listed, any that you would say is most driven by the AI adoption pressure? We talked earlier about how quickly things are moving.
Yeah, the classification side is driven by that a lot, because a lot of people assume that you can auto class very, very easily. It really is. It's a two-part mechanism as you look at it. I mean, you have to match it first. There needs to be human interaction. You have to teach the tools, or to your point of earlier, Lee, you will end up with a bunch of just bad data. You will just have, it'll class it. The thing about machines, when they don't have the answer, they make up the answer. So you have to really, really be very careful on how you lead that machine to figure it out. So that's really the pressure. We've been focused a lot on AI for search, because I think that helps a lot more. And it's a very good, easy step. And then trying to map into some of the AI tools that are out there. A lot of firms are doing some really phenomenal things. But, these AI tools generate a ton of metadata. So trying to make sure that we don't create another big problem by talking too much, calling too many times, downloading too much, just trying to figure out how to minimize our footprint within that.
Not a small undertaking.
It never is.
So speaking of some of those complexities, though, so for a typical law firm or other regulated organization, what would you say a successful 90 days looks like with your platform? The first 90 days.
I think the great thing about, I think all four of us as platform, I'm speaking for the industry. I think we're all very, very good at having outcomes in the first 90 days. I think we've all really come a long way. We used to focus on data mapping, and if you were live or you had a first pass in 90 days, you were woohoo. But now we're actually going out there and looking at data and coming up with ways to report and show you what's your ROT look like. Let's really take a look at what kind of data you are, what you have, and then really try to hone in on, like everyone said, just take a practice group and start working on retention. We're a workflow engine, basically. Everything, we allow you to create all kinds of different retention and disposition workflows by practice group and area of law. So creating those forms so you can get a feeling for what's out there. The attorneys, the secretaries can get a feeling about collections and seeing it in your dashboard. So you can see, oh, none of this has been worked on in 8 years. We could probably address some of this. Some of it probably needs to be archived. Some of it just needs to be destroyed. Some of it needs to go back to clients. But having that as an outcome, because we get it so fast now, because the way we integrate, it used to be box driven, and you were wondering what was in a box. Now it's just API calls. So it's really, you get a ton of data very quickly. The first 3 weeks you're running reports. So once you run those audits, you now have, in some ways it's great because you have more information than you ever had. Other ways it's a little scary because now you see what you have and you can figure out all the bad actors, and then you have to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, that segued nicely into our next question, about like audit logs and things. You're either in an audit or you got to produce some audit or logs, for an audit, especially to continue to comply with those ISO certs and SOC 2 regs. So what kind of reports or audit logs is your tool
So
provide?
we every page in our system gives you an ability to create a report. So you can email or create an Excel report that's formatted from any page in the software. So you have instantaneous reports that you can actually do. So you can do an Excel or PDF from anywhere. And then because it's a workflow tool, you have your whole approval workflow is becoming a part of the audit. And then your collection, which is the audit, we have all of that saved. So we keep all of that together, and you can actually, it shows up in your dashboard as either initiated or completed or to be available to be completed every day. So you can see, and you can search by date range, you can go back, and we store it forever, because once you start moving or destroying things in other areas, it may disappear from OneDrive, but we need to know where it was and what it was. So we keep that in our log, and then we can push that back to DM. We can push whatever you want. We can push or pull all the data around as you want to design it based on your firm. But that's really, we have a 3-pronged approach on that.
Got it.
What evidence do people forget to capture until it's too late?
The approval process. People don't focus on that, and they don't realize that when you start an approval process, especially on transfers, that you didn't go through and, so our approval workflows are both simultaneous and sequential. So a lot of people can be working on a transfer or a retention workflow at the same time. And if you're not able to keep up with what you're doing and just make sure that you keep that log and circulate that log to whoever's going to be the keeper of logs, you can get caught in an audit that Jim didn't approve this and it went out with just my approval, and perhaps that's probably not the best case scenario. It should have gone to Lee, and then Lee should have sent it to Jim, and things like that. I think people forget, because I think a lot of it was done by email over the last 10 years, and now we have all of our systems are doing it, and you're just not used to, the checklists and all that stuff being in your governance system. It used to just be in something you built yourself, and then you would look at an Excel report. Now we're all sitting there showing you a dashboard with the whole approval process, when it was approved, how it's approved, what was changed, because you can substitute. So Jim can say, oh, I'm going to send this to Leo because I'm not available. And all of those different things need to be followed to the way you set it up. So I think that's something that we all have to be very cognizant of.
Yeah. So you're saying people could actually take vacations. So that's good.
I don't know about that. We don't believe in that. That's a terrible word around here. Don't say vacation.
Yeah, not to the CRO. You're the revenue guy, right? So you don't want nobody taking vacations.
So, Tony, one of the questions that is on my mind a good bit and is on the mind of many is, we talked about earlier the DMS being the primary source of truth, but that we're needing to meet the attorneys where they are, which means all of these other new solutions, collaboration tools, AI platforms, things of that nature that are integral to their practice. So from a governance standpoint, what repositories and collaboration tools do you best cover today? Like DMS, email, 365, Teams, file shares, insert, however many others. And where do you feel you still have gaps?
We are pretty much all over all of those that you mentioned. The only one you didn't mention was Purview, but all of those we integrate with. Box is a big one for us, both file shares and ShareFile. I mean, we have, we still have the Citrix piece for a lot of firms, and we do also cover the Google side as well. So for our non-legal folks, that's a big one. So we have those integrations as well. Where I'd like to get better, I think one priority-wise would be the e-discovery tools. When you look at how great they all are at legal holds and walls, and I don't know where that stands. We're good with REL, but I would love to be in like a lot of these different places, because you see some really, the custodian work is really, really fantastic in those products, and I think we can do a little bit better at that. What I'd love to see just as an industry is us talk to each other more. Like instead of competing, we all do a lot of the same thing. Why don't we just integrate with each other? Like stop switching everything out. You have to have 100% from me. And then if you don't have me, then you call Aaron. And if you don't have Aaron, then you call Nick. And then, just come up with some things that we can meet halfway. I mean, there are a lot of great tools out there. You both are active NAB users. I mean, like there's a lot of things that we could all do that doesn't really become competitive. We should all be talking to each other. That's my soapbox. I'd love to see that happen one day, but.
Yeah, no, I would like to see that happen one day too. I mean, one of the things that I'm going to take a little sidestep just for about 30 seconds, but had been coming up in a lot of the roundtable conversations is around the idea of, we as practitioners coming up with a framework of what do we need? What is it that we're looking for? Kind of an requirements document of sorts. It's a little bit too formal, but that, in a scenario like that, everybody's working together and there's that transparency across kind of what firms need and are looking for and what you guys are able to do.
Yeah, I'd be all for it. I think it's something that we should really talk about. There's some mega tools out there, and one that we can all meet in the middle on is Purview. Every firm has it. We all need to talk to it. We're all going to have to talk to Harvey at some point. We're all, Jim, you have a great AI tool. There's a lot of tools out there that it shouldn't be company specific. It should be workflow specific. So if we could figure out a meeting ground that we can all, still sell our products, but also still have a way for you all as end users to work better, then the whole industry gets pulled up.
Yeah, seems like we got to have a follow-up to this conversation.
Yeah,
We got
that's
some
my
homework.
Say, Jim, make a note.
People think I'm insane. I'm sure there's going to be some hate mail for me on that one, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. I got enough of
from
it.
us.
It's fine. Yeah, no, all good, all good. So let's talk about AI for a moment, Tony. What specific controls do you provide to enable, trusted AI use? Things like data minimization, permissioning, labeling, retention, even like training outputs and things like that.
So all of those, but what we are really trying to do is limit it to very specific things. Like I said earlier, we're in the search mode for AI. Like all of us, we started with Boolean, we went to vector. So now we're really coming up with very aggressive ways to introduce that. We have in testing right now, machine learning tool for auto class. It's one of those things, as I said, we find that our classification model works better with matching. We don't have as many false positives as the machine learning tool at this point. So we're hoping to release that. But right now, because of the way we match and because we talk to, we might have 5 sources that we're looking as different authoritative sources to build that matching model. It really gets pretty tight. We're not finding a lot of false negatives or false positive. The machine on its own is not learning as fast, and you still, you just don't want to have a 10% variance. So we're still working through some of those areas, but it's great for PII. It's great for a lot of that stuff because it's so easy to program that you can find a social security number, find a credit card number, date sensitive, names, phone numbers. Those are very easy to get around. But when you get into content, you really have to understand what you're reading, what you're writing, and then what's the comparative source. Contract law is very difficult. IP law is very difficult. So if you let the machine learn alone, it could really just leave a bunch of gaps because it all looks so similar until the machine's really trained. So I'm looking forward to seeing where we go with that. Right now, our release model is matching. And I know Kathleen doesn't love that, Lisa. She would love it to be all machine, but it's also so expensive to spin up these engines and we can't pass it along. So we're trying to do, let the technology keep improving and then we'll release something. But we're plug ready. That's the thing is we can plug into your tools. We've had some firms ask us if we would work with their companies.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now we'll have to follow up on the AI conversation for sure and on prompts and let me get your thought. We asked Nick the same question, right? Because there's this thought about like prompt libraries and things like that, right? I mean, what do you think? This is like not specific to Fit, but like our industry. I mean, do you have to preserve prompts and outputs and all that stuff? What do you think?
I think you should. I don't know if you have to, but I think it should be controlled by you. I don't think it's something that should be outside of your walls. And going, you and I've talked about this offline. Should the firm own their AI sandbox? And I think the firm should because it is such a big spend when you have it controlled by a big company, and the amount of engines. We were doing a project for someone a couple of weeks ago, and we had to list about 65 terabytes on a weekend, and to see the spikes in the performance of what was required to get through that in a place like Tokyo, it's a price. And if you're not careful, you will just start to see bills for usage that are really outrageous. Whereas if you control it yourself, you actually know how to monitor. You can govern it. You can actually say it. You can keep your prompts. You can do a lot of different things. So I think it's a collaboration we have to get better at because no one wants to see a variable data build. A bill coming in after the fact for $15,000 for what you spent trying to onboard someone. These are all things that the industry is just adapting to as we go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the closed model is where it's at. You get to see your your Azure usage, your OpenAI usage, your tool usage, instead of, having somebody else do the hosting and all that stuff. So, yeah, but we'll have to see. I think we're definitely figuring out, what the best practices are there. So here's final question. Oh, go ahead, Tony. Sorry, I cut you off.
There's some great companies out there doing real work. So they're going to have a playbook that we all should follow.
Yeah, 100%. So here's our final question for today for you, Tony. One sentence or two. What should listeners do in the next 30 days to improve IG outcomes?
Sign fit. What else should they do?
I was expecting that. I like it.
I'm going to actually always do something like that. I think everyone said the same thing. It's not impossible. You don't have to do the whole firm at once. It starts small and big. It's all about user adoption. It's all about success and proven success. Find owners in the firm that will be your champions and then take it from there. One matter is not too small and one practice group is not too big. So whatever works for your culture and you can get results. All of these tools, anything you use will tell you what's in OneDrive. Anything you use will tell you what's in DM. You can actually come up with real things. So it's about retention and disposition, and then coming up with a plan that you can pilot or execute.
Yeah, I like that. Start small. Yeah, listen, I like that. I like that tagline. Start small and big.
I just made that up too.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Did you use AI to come up with that, or Tony AI?
That's Tony AI.
Tony, thanks for joining us today. Great hearing everything you had to share.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. Thanks for
what
being.
You guys are up to.
Yeah, thanks for being such a good sport. We love it.
We are busy for sure.
Yeah, you are, and we'll have to have a follow up to this conversation. But till now, we're gonna send you backstage. All right.
Alrighty.
So listen, have a great rest of your day. All right.
You too.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. I feel like I got too much power with this backstage stuff.
You do. You got it all there, Jim.
So we got one more guest.
Better than you, me. I don't walk and chew gum well at the same time. So.
Yeah, let's bring our friend from the UK. He's probably, man, it's 7, right? It's gonna be 7:30 or 7:30 p.m. there.
He's hanging with us late.
He is.
Hi there.
Here he is. Here's our buddy. What's up, Chris?
Hey,
With the rosy cheeks. Hi there. It's 6:30 p.m. here.
Yeah. You're a good sport, hanging out with us all the way from the UK, right? So it's truly a global day.
On the graveyard slot as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're glad that you took time to join Lee and I, on the hot seat. Of course, Chris Giles, Legal RM CEO, focusing on I Comply, Legal RM. Formally welcome to you. I know you were my first guest, I think 3 years ago. So
I was indeed.
Yeah. So I guess it's fitting that you're the last guest, on the live show, right? I guess save the, I don't know if I can say this, but why not? It's the show. Save the best for last, right? Because you're the first. So, but Chris, now seriously, please share your title. I know you're the CEO, but what you're doing at Legal RM, and maybe even something personal. I know you travel a lot, so maybe something fun you've been doing.
Yeah, well, first of all, before I get started with that, I want to say thank you to you, Jim, and you, Lee, for hosting this event, and also both Arma and ILTA. The backing of the communities and the getting together is what we in the information governance world absolutely need. Information governance used to be an afterthought within law firms, especially. It is front and center in today's world, and it's largely thanks to people like you two. Who are spokespeople for this, and the backing of the communities, and we see that now with ILTACon and Arma InfoCon, and also ILTA Evolve, where there is a lot more focus on information governance as firms grow. So I just want to say that from the get-go, and really just I'm going to give you an idea of how I got started in IG. So it all started with romance. I moved to Paris after my degree to go and see my girlfriend at the time, and couldn't find a job. and ended up in a law firm looking after their records and their IT. Who would have known? Then went on the supplier side and ended up working for laterally Hummingbird, or the legal key product suite, which was conflicts, information barriers, and records. Back then, it was mainly physical records, but there was some integration with iManage and also with DM5, which was the Hummingbird product at the time. And why did I start Legal RM? Well, it was basically I saw that their firms were drowning in unmanaged records, and both physical and electronic. And there was a need to bring together a one single platform. Initially, we weren't doing that. We were providing consultancy to get help people get the most out of those older products before we realized that there was nothing on the market. So we worked with a couple of products, a product called FileTrack, a product called Legal Key. We did some IRM work even, and then we thought, well, no, these aren't good enough for the industry, and so we developed from the ground up our own product, which we launched in 2019. So yeah, that's a bit of background on me and how I ended up here.
Yeah, and you've been around ever since, and so that's great. So let me ask you, let's get this started here. So, what do you wish every organization did before they call it an IG program?
I think I would say probably know what you have, where it is, who's responsible for it, because without visibility, everything is just guesswork. But I also agree with what Nick's comment earlier about not letting perfection be the enemy of the good. You can't. And the other thing to say really is you can't really do. And this is a theme I think I'll probably repeat multiple times. You can't really do AI well without good information governance first, with a foundation that makes AI trustworthy. So, which is why we've become more mainstream and more important to firms, because we touch on the business rather than just on the risk mitigation aspects.
Yeah, I mean, you teed it up so nicely. That's why we're calling this from here on out governed intelligence. Governed intelligence. It's IG flipped, right? So
Agree.
you teed that up
Totally
nicely.
agree.
Yeah. So Chris, with all the things going on, what would you say are the top 3 capabilities you're prioritizing in 2026? I know you're getting a lot of information from your customers, from the industry, and what specific customer problems are driving those investments?
Okay, so before I touch on that, I'm going to just to say we employed our chief AI officer back in November ourselves because of to look at both our product suite in adopting AI. I think with some of the other providers have talked about that already, but we see it as central not only to our product suite and where it's going forward, but also in terms of our business. So I think there was I think it might have been Tony mentioned about how AI is permissive in its pervasive. It's everywhere, and some firms have connecting it with their SharePoint, their OneDrive. In our business, we have AI connected to our support solution, our CRM, our SharePoint, my emails, Teams. So everything is interconnected. So if I need to know what's going on with a client, I can see it. As long as I have permissions to see it within those systems. It's very important. So with that said, really, our thing is looking at AI ready data foundations. I don't think it's just a solution from us. Aaron touched on it about iManage in their AI classification to better classify or bring into the iManage work world content within emails under a client matter structure. I also think that there's people like NetDocs with their AI classifier, auto classifier, which will go through the whole library or cabinet and pull out additional metadata sources. So there's those, but also I think firms are rushing to adopt AI and discovering that data is not governed well within unstructured data sources. It's many of the data is over retained. It's misclassified. or it's and therefore it's completely ungoverned, and that is where it becomes not only a liability to the firm but also a liability to any AI. AI isn't some magic wand; it is simply a echo chamber or an amplifier of good solutions, but also poor. So if you have poor data, you're going to have extremely poor outcomes when it comes to using AI tools, in my view. We want to invest in making iComply the platform that ensures data is clean, classified, and policy compliance before the AI systems can access it. So we want to ensure that there's a lot more governance, and really look at firms feeling that they can trust the information that they're running their AI engines over the top of. And as I said, I think that's two-way. It's partly in us continuing to build out solutions based on auto classification of unstructured data, but it's also looking at the inherent solutions within the tools. So firms will move more, and I think this was touched on, but the terminology wasn't quite said. Firms will move to an IG framework rather than an IG team or an IG or tools, which might have one or two things. When they procure new tools, they will ensure that it meets the framework for a governance platform over the top. That's number one. Sorry, I'll go quickly in the other ones. Next one's accelerated defensible disposal. So the biggest pain point we hear from firms are they know they're over retaining. There's a huge amount of information, but if you could boil that down and say, if one partner and one client approves, you get one approval, you can clear down 150,000 documents in 20 boxes, you're going to get more bang for your buck. So looking and delivering the absolute obvious, so the business benefit is delivered to the people, to the IG teams, and not buried in some reports. So that's the second part we're looking at, really, like getting rid of that paralysis. Can't speak.
Must be the accent. Cool.
It is, y'all. So the other thing is looking at deeper cross-platform governance. So we are looking at launching. So currently we have integrations, and we're going to come to this a bit further in the conversation. We have integrations with iManage Work, with Net Documents, and the different flavors of iManage, single tenanted on-prem and cloud. Although I think nobody's really touched upon. I heard the last speaker say about it's just APIs. It's just APIs. No one talks about the weaponization of APIs, the throttling of APIs. Even if you, the law firms, own access to those APIs and subject to acceptable use, it's really important that you wield your power to ensure that you have access to do the work you need to do. So anyway, just to say, iManage, Net Documents, Office 365. So we have integrations with OneDrive and SharePoint, file shares, whether they be Azure, AWS, Windows-based, and of course physical records. But we're also going to be deepening our integrations with other repositories, and that's going to also take a two-prong attack. This May, our next release is going to have multiple integration points, but we also have the ability to provide ad hoc integrations. So sometimes there is no business benefit in building a new integration piece where you just need a reminder, and you want a holistic policy engine allowing you to have a governance framework. Instead of spending a lot of money and time building an integration piece, you may just want a pointer with the necessary metadata and understanding to ensure that in 10 years' time, when you want to destroy that content, you're reminded and you know exactly where it is.
That makes sense. I mean, you got a lot of capabilities there, Chris. So let us ask you. What does a successful 90 days look like in your platform?
I'm gonna almost say the Fifth Amendment to start with, and I'll come and give you an answer. So it depends heavily on the firm, very heavily, and that will be based on the quality of their information, and the classification that you're walking into. If you're going to have to do a cleanup job and a huge amount of mapping, it's going to be a lot slower. and you're going to deliver a lot less value within those 90 days. It's also based on the size of the firm and oftentimes the type of work they do, or the number of mergers, combinations that they've done over a period of time. Because if the data is poor, it's going to be challenging. But my view is number one, it's going to be visibility within that 90-day period. You want visibility of the information assets across the different repositories that you're connecting to, whether that's a migration of a physical records and or a NetDocs I manage, or a SharePoint and physical records, that you have that visibility there. It's the policy application, ensuring that they've got visibility and they understand what their policies are and they're set, the application of those policies, so you can see whether you can identify where the rot is. And our policy engine is extremely powerful. So it can be a firm-wide policy. It can be at practice group level, or department or practice group level. It can be at client level, matter level, submatter, author or attorney level. It can be at file type or document type level. It can be at matter type level, or a combination of all of those things. So it can be granular down to the individual document level, and it can be subject to a number of approvals. So meshing that policy into the visibility of the content, and then looking at your first disposition. So of course it's a reduction of rot. And I know in the planning for this, you wanted to give a concrete kind of outcome, an idea, and I'm not going to name the firm, but it's on our website. One of the firm in Europe, they put our system in, and within 6 months they had saved $100,000 in physical records destruction from the implementation. So they were, but I will caveat that by saying they also changed offsite storage vendor at the time, so they were able to make those destructions and not pay ridiculous fees or be beholden to the offsite storage vendor only saying we'll do 50 boxes a week or whatever. The other thing I would say is a typical project where we're only doing electronic records. It is the removal of the overage charges with the offset that some of the DMS vendors charge, which can be significant in nature. So what is the return on investment? It is looking at if you're paying $50,000 in overage charges or $150,000, you can bet your bottom dollar that those overage charges are related to redundant, obsolete, or trivia data. If you got rid of that, you will be able to remove it, those overage charges. So it's cost savings. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris, you shared a lot there. A couple of things that I wanted to kind of extrapolate and follow up on. So defensibility, policies, policy enforcement, all of those obviously key components of any governance initiative. So how do you prove in an audit or dispute that the policies that a firm establishes are complied consistently, and what evidence do you produce that details that, logs, reports, approval trails, exception handling, things like that? How do you handle kind of the audit process and being able to report back on what those activities were?
All of the above, and with you would have seen, those who have seen our system will know that you can report on every single action. Every action is logged within the system. Retention policies are applied. We look at who's approved, which assets. When I say assets, I mean down to the granular individual information asset, the particular document or the particular physical record. And they're all noted, so that the evidence that can be produced, policy application logs, like which policy was applied to which asset, when the rule was triggered, was it matter closure, last build date, creation date, if it's at company level, practice group level, client level, matter level, practice group, whatever. There's so many different options. Then looking at the approvals, you may have different approvals based on different policies or different areas of law. So, and again, they can be sequential, or they can be all at the same time. Who's approved, and when, and which batch of assets that relates to. Looking at exception handling, so when there's a legal hold, if there's a partner override, or we're pending destruction, but we've got the approval, but it's pending for whatever reason because there's one extra level of approval. And we can even produce this disposition certificates within the application as well. But the application in itself is the proof, because it's completely audited. And I know that one of your questions you were alluding to here was, so how long do you keep the data for? How are we going to keep this proof for? So whilst we can instruct the deletion of records within iManage, or within NetDocuments, or within SharePoint, or within OneDrive, or a file share, or even we can integrate with the offsite storage vendors to send a request for permanently destruction. It's Iron Mountain, or Access. They use a warehouse management tool called Total Recall, and many of the others use something called O'Neill. We can send through via Web Service Bridge or SFTP request for destruction. Those assets will be destroyed, but we will keep the audit of what was there, when, what policy was applied, who approved, and when it was destroyed. Just a little side note, when we put destructions, because there's nervousness sometimes, when you go into an iManage or a NetDocuments environment, of a nervousness about, oh my God, they might destroy everything. We don't do hard deletions. We do soft deletions, so it goes into a recycling queue, so that you as a firm continue to manage and control what is actually permanently destroyed. And usually those recycling bins clear down after a 28-day cycle. So that's kind of important. So a lot of information there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we need those reports, so we can see what actually happened for numerous reasons. So thanks for sharing that, Chris.
Can I just say, we also allow you to apply costs associated with, or cost or savings associated with every action within the application. Not many of our clients use that, funny enough, but it's there, and you can go down to the point, I don't know, 5 below a cent of a dollar, and so 5 zeros after a cent of a dollar, so you can actually calculate how much your savings are. So IG isn't seen as a cost center, but a profit center.
I like that. Show a little
Yeah.
ROI. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Chris, we talked a little bit about it, at the outset, when you first joined, about repositories, collaboration tools, that your platform covers, such as DMS, email, 365, file shares. Where are you seeing any gaps? Like, are you seeing chat, for instance? Is that still a gap, in systems, or with classifications and things?
I think that the firms, we haven't seen anything we do. We haven't had any gaps in what we do, because of where firms are on catch up to where our product is at. So most firms are looking at either their DMS first, and then their physical records, or physical records then DMS, then they go into SharePoint. And we have some firms where there's a half and half split, where they're using a DMS vendor on half of their firm, and half are using SharePoint. And we in that case, we manage both the physical, the content in the SharePoint and content in the DMS. And for that individual firm I'm thinking of, they don't even use physical records. They don't use us for that. Currently, we have addressed the areas where there is proper classification or strong classification. And that has been as I mentioned before, physical records, the content in a structured DMS, structured file shares, wherever they're based, those file shares, OneDrive, SharePoint. We have connectors we're putting in place for where there is not so much a risk profile, but more of a cost benefit things like HiQ, Titan File, Box, where there's a true return on investment if you can reduce down the content over here. I see a need for more and more connectors, or at the same time structuring or looking at tools. Tony mentioned about ActiveNav is one tool which looks for dark data within unstructured data sources. There are other tools. I think that is a growth area where firms will want to look at those massive terabytes or petabytes even of data within unstructured file shares and unstructured emails. And I think we are part of the solution that on that. They're the areas where there are gaps, in my view, today. That can be dealt with using the ad hoc data sources that I mentioned within our application.
Being sensitive to time, I know we've covered a lot of ground. We're getting close to the top of the hour. But Chris, can I ask you one final takeaway? So in one sentence, what should listeners do in the next 30 days to improve IG outcomes?
I think it's like most of the other people have said, which is really what I said at the beginning. Don't let the good be the enemy of the or perfection be the enemy of good. Talks about this a lot about looking at picking most overdue disposition lists or a particular client, large client, or where there's one particular attorney or partner. Get it approved, get it destroyed, because of good news. Bad news travels fast, but good news travels fast as well. Look for champions and celebrate success. People like to be part of success, and if you celebrate it, it will proliferate around the firm and across the firm, and it's very important.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. Thanks for joining us today. I mean, this was fun.
No, thank you, guys, and thank you very much for everything you've done.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll send you backstage and then we'll have some final thoughts. All right, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Chris.
much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was a long 2 hours, but good 2 hours, right?
It was a very good 2 hours.
Yeah,
Coming
yeah.
in
We
with
helped.
lots and lots of questions and ideas.
Yeah. This is just the beginning, I think, of these live broadcasts. We're holding pretty strong on these numbers throughout the whole broadcast. But look, before we wrap, Lee and I, we just want to thank ARMA International and ILTA for partnering with us on this global IG 2026 day. We appreciate that. And also, to our guests, we had 4 amazing guests from these solution providers. Aaron Rangel from iManage, Nick Burge from Latera, Tony Ford from Fit, and finally, of course, we just wrapped up our conversation with Chris Giles from Legal RM. Amazing conversations, and we can see the benefits that all those solutions and companies are doing for us in these organizations. But before we kind of wrap up, Lee, just wanted to ask you, what's your, if you could take one takeaway from the day, what would you say?
Wow, that's hard to distill down. I think that defensibility is not a document. It's repeatable execution plus evidence. So we talked a lot about the audit and the reporting, things of that nature seems to be a priority for all of the folks that we talk to. And if you can't show consistent application, exceptions, and approvals on demand, you do not have governed intelligence yet.
Yeah, there you go. Governed intelligence. We're going to be talking about that a lot over the next few weeks and months. So I like that takeaway.
Jim, what's
I
yours?
guess yeah, put me on the hot seat. So mine, I think, it's pretty simple. I mean, treat IG as your AI enablement program. If you want AI as an advantage in your firm or in your company, you need policies that you can actually enforce, data you can find and proof that you can produce, you know, connecting all those systems. I think we talked about a lot about AI and, you know, connecting systems and having that one, like you said, pane of glass between our systems and maximizing investments there. So that would be, I guess, my one takeaway. So, but you know, listen, if you for our audience that's holding strong there live, I'm sure, you know, hopefully you ate your lunch through this hour, or you're waiting till 2 o'clock. But if you want a follow up episode, just send us the one IG problem you want put in the hot seat. So you can message either on LinkedIn, or, you know, Lee and I are not hard to find these days. Tell us which of the 5 questions too was most useful. We'd love feedback. And one you wish we pushed harder. So we asked the same 5 questions, right, to everyone. And also, as you know, head back to your teams, remember the lens for the show in 2026, right? It's going to be the InfoGov Hot Seat, the show where information governance flips into governed intelligence and data becomes your AI advantage. So we're going to end each episode this year with a short reminder of that direction.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for Global Information Governance Day 2026. Look forward to keeping the discussion going.
Yeah, likewise. And thank you, Lee, for being my esteemed co-host today, and you know, asking, you know, helping me ask these tough questions to our solution providers.
It was fun.
Yeah, awesome. So have a great rest of the day, everyone. Thanks so much.